some of us are so afraid of the hard things, though, that's where we get stuck. We're so afraid that we're going to get into a situation that we can't handle.
Right.
And, for me, that's a big part of what confidence is: taking courageous action, trusting yourself that whatever comes, you're going to be able to handle it, because we can't control all the external factors. We can't control everything around us. And for me, one of the things that gives me great confidence is knowing I don't have to have all the answers right now.
That's right.
I can trust myself that I'm going to be able to find a who that's going to be able to help me to answer a question if I don't have it. Welcome to the Andrea Engstrom Show for bold women in business. We are passionate about helping you break through to your next level of abundance, success, and freedom so that you can create the life you desire and inspire others to do the same. I'm your host, Andrea Engstrom, and I'm here with my co-host, Brenda Stroud. Hey, Brenda.
Hey, girl. Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's exciting to be back and in the swing of things again.
It is. This is the first time I'm seeing you this year. And of course, you look fabulous as usual.
You too. You too.
Hopefully it's a reflection of the quality time that you spent with your family during the holidays, because we both know how important it is to step away from all of this business stuff and take out time with your loved ones, and to also be able to center down and take care of yourself and put yourself first. So you look great, because I know you did it, because I was watching you.
Yeah, I tell you what, this season was full of family time and great adventures. My daughter had baby number 3, so I got 3 grandboos now. They're doing great. And this last weekend, I just helped my daughter and her husband move them and their 3 babies into a brand new house. They just bought their first home. So we've been busy.
That's awesome. Many blessings, many blessings. I am super excited. I remember when you told us that you were expecting your first grandchild, and now you're on grandchild number 3. Girl, you done passed me.
Well, we love the grandbabies, and it just reminds us like why we're doing what we do in business. Is like every time there's a new addition to our family, our why gets bigger.
That's
right.
That's
yeah.
Right. That's right.
Well, you're looking fabulous. The New Year's treating you well.
Oh, girl, thank you. Thank you. I had a chance to get away with some friends. Actually, I ended up taking 2 trips in December, one with my godmother to celebrate her 80th birthday. And then at the end of the month, I got away with one of my girlfriends to celebrate her sister's 50th. So we went to Napa Valley for the first time. And my kids, they know me so well. They gave me 2 spa treatments for Christmas that I had to use in Napa Valley.
Oh,
and I did. I did not know how much I needed that. And as well as it reminded me how well my son and daughter-in-law know me. Because if they would have given me money, I would have put it on the bill.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. They're like making you treat yourself. I love it. I love it.
Yes.
Well, awesome.
Last year was a hard year in real estate for me. So, when I was wrapping the year up, I had to pause and assess what I needed to do different coming into this new year. Part of that was what my son and daughter-in-law, ignited with that last trip, which I left like right after Christmas, is I got to take better care of myself.
Yeah.
I got to take better care of myself. As you know, we kind of started this journey full time together back in 2020. As you know, we came in, guns blazing. We was just like buying up stuff left and right.
Yeah.
Not even fully. I don't even know if we took a breath.
No.
It really was crazy how quickly things turned for us, and how quickly we were able to pick up the lessons that were placed before us, apply it, and be able to move forward and be, what others would describe, and as what I would describe, I'm sure you would as well, as find some success in real estate investing.
Yes.
So, I don't know if you feel the same way, but that's kind of how I felt about it when I look back on it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When you are an action taker and you jump in and you do the thing, and it was, for me also, it was very much about how much.
Yes.
And felt like this great sense of urgency to do the thing. And I think we both learned some really good lessons from that. About how we are capable of making stuff happen if we get it done. But also, as those projects came along, and some of them still coming along, that we also learned when we've taken on more than we want to have. It's like when you start doing stuff like that and then you realize what your life looks like, you
Yeah.
learn better, so you do better,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, yes. I totally agree because I think it took me probably in year okay, we started in 2020, so maybe around 2022 is
Yeah.
when I started to realize like, wait a minute, I'm doing too much.
Mhm.
You know, I think part of it when I came in and I, was under the teaching that I was under, and they had these numbers thrown out there. This is what you should do in order to be here. If you do this, you'll get that kind of thought process, and not fully applying it to me.
Yeah.
Catering it to myself, my life, what I could handle, and all those kind of things. So around 2022 was the first time I started to kind of hit a wall of
Mhm.
of exhaustion, of being
Yeah.
overwhelmed, of like really looking back and saying, if I had it to do again, I would do it different.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
then
well, yeah, we learn what we want our life to look like, and then can move forward from there.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it definitely has been a journey. It's definitely
Mhm.
has, been a journey. So but I just want to kind of touch, tap into, how the end of the year was for me. I've made some serious decisions about myself and my business going forward. Hopefully we can touch on that a little bit today.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about it. I'm actually excited to share it with you. So what's going on new with you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've spent the last 3 months in Kansas, and our home is Colorado. So we've been out here. We came out here because Nana and Papa's house is on the way to everywhere when you've got kids at home still. So
Yeah.
we came out here right before we went to Italy. So I took my mastermind group to Italy at the end of October, and then we ended up coming back to Topeka, Kansas, and staying here because it was like, oh, Thanksgiving's around the corner. Oh, that baby's coming any day now. Now
Mhm.
Christmas, now New Year's, now moving into a new house. And so, over these past few months, though, I've taken some time to really think about what do I want my business to look like and what needs to change in
Yeah.
order for us to have our family life look like we want it to. And so this year is a year of taking decisive action, and in a very intentional way, using the lessons that we've learned about what works for us and what doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
And so the ability to shift now
Yeah.
that we have some information under our belt.
Absolutely. I think being open and willing to what my word pivot,
Uh-huh.
being open and ready to pivot is important. And I think applying that not only to your business but to your personal life is important. That means you have to be open. You got to be, you can't go through life or go through the journey with blinders on, but
Yeah.
be willing to say, okay, be willing to change your mind, be willing to adjust.
Mhm.
Always assessing where you are as compared to where you want to be,
Mhm.
self-analyzing. All of those things are things that that I know that you and I both do, and that kind of helps us to not hold ourselves hostage to the decisions we made yesterday, but
Yeah.
also allow us to make new decisions and be comfortable in it, and not
Yeah.
and not take ourselves out because what I planned to do yesterday didn't go the way I wanted to, but so I made a new plan. Some people have a very difficult time with shifting,
Yeah.
and I think that kind of ties, especially people who get caught up in, what they call analysis paralysis.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to talk about that more today. I think that one of the most common things that I hear from women entrepreneurs who reach out to me for advice is that they feel stuck, and the words that they use is analysis paralysis. What you just
Mhm.
said is they like, I feel like I am just like still exploring my options, or I'm trying to make a decision, or I'm in the information gathering
Yeah.
phase. And I feel like there's so many people that get stuck in the information gathering phase
Mhm.
instead of assessing their options, making a decision, and then taking action.
Right, right, right. I think that's the key part. They, like you said, they get stuck collecting data,
Right.
and then but they're not applying it. They're just
Right.
continuing to collect it because they're looking for perfection, or they may even not realize that it's coming from a place of fear.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why people get stuck in analysis paralysis. They may also be procrastinators, or it contributes to them being a procrastinator, because 9 times out of 10, if they're doing that in their business life, they're also doing it in their personal life.
Yes, yes. And I think it's one of the insidious forms of self-sabotage,
Ah,
and is procrastination, perfectionism, over analyzing, analysis paralysis. We can call it a number of things, but the reality is that it all kind of falls under that category of self-sabotage if we're really honest about it.
that's true. That is true. It is. I think it is sabotage, because ultimately, regardless of what you call it, you end up at the same place, standing still like deer in headlights.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and that's
Yeah.
sometimes what it feels like, is that I
Mhm.
don't know enough, or I'm not, I'm not doing what you're doing, because a lot of times they're comparing themselves to other people, and it's not realistic what you see, what you just see when you're witnessing other people's lives. Because when you look at me, you don't see the journey, you
Right.
just see how I feel today.
Mhm.
But you don't see, all that went into, building what I've been trying to build in reference to my family, the sacrifices I've had to make, the moments when I had to kind of sit it on down for a second, regroup, and then jump back in. You don't see that when you're looking at other people's journey. So you got to be very careful that you're not, seeing what you want to see, and then you're writing the story the way you think it is, as compared to how it actually is.
Yeah,
So you got to
exactly.
be okay with that. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I think so many of us, we want the fruit, we want the end result, but we don't necessarily take into account like the hard things that were along the way.
Yeah.
And I think some of us are so afraid of the hard things though that that's where we get stuck. We're so
Mhm.
afraid that we're going to get into a situation that we can't handle.
Right.
And for me, that's a big part of what confidence is just taking courageous action, trusting yourself that whatever comes, you're going to be able to handle it. And
Right.
that's the thing, is like it's trusting yourself, because we can't control all the external factors, we can't control everything around us.
Mhm.
And one of the things that gives me confidence is the idea that I always know that I don't have to have all the answers.
Right.
And it goes back to that who, not how principle. I love that
Mhm.
book. I call it out all the time, Who, Not How, by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan.
Mhm.
And they actually call this out, that procrastination is a signal that you need a who, because most of us, our default is to ask, how am I going to get
Mhm.
this done? And that leads to procrastination, because we're sitting there going, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And for me, one of the things that gives me great confidence is knowing I don't have to have all the answers right
Right.
now.
That's
I
right.
can I can trust myself that I'm going to be able to find a who that's going to be able to help me to answer a question if I don't have it, the answer
That's right.
already.
And you also, I think part of that, what contributes to that, is that you're confident in your abilities, in your own
Mhm.
abilities. I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to go and find the answers. I'm willing to ask for help. I'm willing to acknowledge that I don't know. So let me call whatever, or let me research whatever. And I think that the reasons why people don't do that is because maybe it's either in the way, it could be in the way they were brought up, or what society has imposed on them, or in their life, the fingerprints of those that had influence on them. They may do things that way. They may
Mhm.
position themselves, I got to be perfect, I got to show up this way, I can't let people know that I don't know. Whatever that conversation is that goes on in their head, you can, at some point, if you realize that you're living under that, or you've been living under that, then you have to decide, I want to make a change. I
Mhm.
need to create something that's uniquely mine. I want to be okay with asking for help. I want to be okay with, I like what you're doing. Can you tell me how you did it? And
Yeah.
not operate from a place of competition, because I think that's another part of
Mhm.
it. Is people inadvertently compete with other people. Therefore, they can't ask the person that they're competing with for help, because you're competing with her, but they don't know. I mean, it's a whole cycle
Yeah.
of thinking that can hold you up from taking the steps, the baby steps, taking that first step of just saying, hey, acknowledging, I want to do this. How do I do this? who can I call or whatever to begin the conversation. So I
Mhm.
think when you're stuck in analysis, you're not having a conversation,
Right.
evident with yourself.
Oh yeah, yeah. And we can go round and round in circles with ourselves, can't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things that I decided to do going into this year, because I'm not really a person that makes like New Year's resolution. I'm going to go to
Uh-huh.
the gym. I'm not really that girl. I mean, I wish I was, but I am not. But coming, excuse me, coming out of 2024 and going, and like I said, in December, I did some traveling. So it provided some time for me to really center down and think about, am I really happy with the way I'm living my life?
Oh.
If I looked back over the 2024, would I want 2025 to look like 2024?
Mm.
And in thinking that and asking myself that question, my answer was no. So I made the decision to, as you know, my son and I have a decent sized portfolio. We got about
Mhm.
22 properties. We did like 32 transactions since
Woo.
2020. Yeah, yeah, it's a lot. Um, but I decided I'm not buying any more houses right now, not to add to my portfolio. I want to take this year and let me say this. And before the end of the year, I had 3 transactions on the table that I killed. I'm like, I can't do
Wow.
it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it in that same mindset I was doing it in before. So I contacted my wholesaler. I said, it's a no for all 3 right now. It's a no. I'm not taking these on myself or any of that. My son and I are not going to take it on. And that's the pattern that I was in before. I get a good deal, which I always run across good deal. God is in the blessing business. So I always have a good deal. But just because God brings you a deal does not necessarily mean he's telling you to say yes.
Mm.
It may not be my deal, it may be a deal for someone else, but and he brought it to me to give to someone else. So at the end of the year, I decided that that my son and I are not going to be buying any properties this year. Um, going into this next year is all about stabilizing what we already have.
Yeah.
So so for me, it was like it's not even. I need to take less action. I need to take less action and then make sure that the actions I've taken in the past, that I'm nurturing them to continue to move forward without my hands on it, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah. So for you, it's about I'm going to quit starting so many new projects and just take care of what I already have. And I think that's a big message for so many of us that tends to be multi-passionate entrepreneurs doing multiple types of businesses or taking on one more deal. I just want to do one more thing. And it's hard to say no sometimes, but saying no to good things is what opens you up for great things in the future.
Yeah, I firmly believe that. And I came home and I talked to my son about, hey, I think this is what we need to do. He was in agreement. So what I did with the 3 transactions is I know that there's some ladies and I'm in several groups.
Yeah.
And I know that there's some ladies out there who are struggling with finding deals or, want some support as they move through the deal. So what I did with the 3 transactions is I put it out to the ladies, hey, I got these 3 deals that I got them, I negotiated the pricing. And if you want to JV with me, I will support you in you doing the deal, and I will be there as a support for you. So basically, I'm giving it to them, but I'm going to help them to do what I did, in the
Gotcha.
same area. So I really felt like God was telling me, I'm giving you this so you can feed others.
Mm,
You're full right now. I fed you. I've blessed you. You've opened your hands in your life to receive what I have for you. Now what I give to you is for you to give others.
beautiful.
So that's the space I think this year, moving into this year, is about stabilizing what I already have, and then it's about blessing others, as we move forward. But I also, in me doing that, will create a space for me to focus on my other businesses that I'm passionate about the podcast with you,
Mhm.
blessing other people through my coaching program, and really being able to sit down with these ladies, some of them one on one. I just had a conversation with a young lady I was coaching with yesterday about procrastination, which
Uh-huh.
which is amazing. because and I was just telling her, and the conversation started out about real estate, but it ended up about the rest of her life. So it's about the whole woman.
Mhm.
It's about the whole woman. And she's like, I needed this.
Yeah.
I needed somebody to kind of help me to, shift how I look at things. And she was a person, or is a person, that it's like, it's got to be right before I make the first move. And I had to kind of challenge her on that thought process. Why? Who says it's right? You might be ready. It might not be right, but it's ready.
Yeah.
Just because you cook a cake and you don't put the icing on it, don't mean it ain't a good cake.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll still eat it.
Yeah. No, you know what? I think that's really powerful. And sometimes when we make a decision, because what you're describing is a form of taking decisive action also.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us, we will sort of kind of decide something, and then we'll sit on it and just make sure it feels right, and we'll kind of think about it some more, and we'll say that it's a decision, but we didn't actually take any action to execute on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that's when things start to go sideways.
Yeah.
Right, is when, because if you had stayed in those deals and carried on for even a week or two longer, and then you don't get the right person in the mix that can actually take over what you need them to, or do the thing, that can blow a deal, right? Because then we get to the end and we just throw our hands up and say, well, I can't, because instead of handling business. And I think that's really the key. And that's what I admire so much about you, Brenda, is that you're someone who handles her business. And the way that you go about that is, when you identify that something needs to shift, you don't just throw your hands up and say, well, I'm not going to do that anymore, I give up. You say, and now what?
Yeah.
It's like you identify what it is, make a decision, and then take action accordingly. And I think that's where there's a gap. And I think that comes from years of experience in life, and in business. But it's something that I feel like is a muscle that people, the good news is it's a muscle you can work out, and you can get better at it. So I don't think anybody needs to listen and just say, well, Brenda's got it, I don't, or Andrea takes action and I'm just not wired that way. I have not always been wired that way. I don't know about you, but that was a muscle that I had to develop over time.
Right. Yeah. I think a big part of it also for me, Andrea, is about faith and trust. Because if I find myself, it's starting to feel heavy about things, or the direction is not as clear, I then think, because of my relationship with Christ and how he's always kind of moved in my life, because he kind of be talking to me all kinds of ways. But, if I find myself at that place where it's starting to feel heavy and not as clear, that's telling me that God is trying to tell me something. And so that's what I say in that moment, when I realize, I'm like, okay, God, what is it you want me to get from this? I often ask that question. Okay, God, what do you want me to get from this? Now I've lost money. I've had to fire contractors. I've had to, things take longer than I expected, all the things. But even in that moment, I'm like, okay, God, what do you want me to get from this? And sometimes it's a matter of just slow down. Sometimes it's a matter of, I need you to go left instead of right. So being open and ready and able to receive, depending on where you are and where your source of guidance comes from. For me, it's a personal relationship with my Lord and Savior. So, and he often speaks to me, like I said, sometimes any kind of way. I'm like, you gotta say it like that. He's like, yeah, that's the only time. That's the only way you're gonna get it, is if I got to come in hard and rough with you, girl. So sometimes he says, sit it down, let somebody else do it. I know you got a new dress and all, but you're gonna need to sit down. And so I got to take heed to that. And I think that's what was going on, was that I saw this glimpse of, if I don't slow down, if I don't prepare myself to shift, if I don't accept what could possibly happen, I could lose it all in one decision or one transaction. It's just that simple. So for me, it was like, okay, God wanted me to see that, and I had to make some different decisions, and I had to stop buying houses, because that can be addictive, especially if you find your groove and you find your pocket, it can become addictive. So I had to stop buying houses, and I had to, take better care of myself and my relationships.
Yeah.
My relationships with my family, with myself, with my business, because that's a relationship too. That can be an unhealthy relationship too. So I had to, kind of take a look at that. And so part of that, like you said, it's important for me to be decisive, but it's also important for me to know when to, not take action, know when to say no, know
Yeah.
when to pass it off, know when to seek advice, know when to, just know when to know when to know when.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can really put it.
Yeah. I think the way that you describe having an addiction to buying houses, I feel like I may have that when it comes to like starting new programs and like, oh, I want something new. And it's like shiny, it's kind of shiny object,
Yeah.
but it's almost like I want something new. I want something exciting. I love to start things. I need team members to help me and people to come alongside me to help me finish things sometimes. But I think like whenever it feels like things are not going exactly how I planned, instead of digging in and finishing, my brain wants to start a new thing. I don't know if
Mm,
anybody can relate to that who's listening to this today, but I am I get so excited by new ideas and new relationships with people, like new people come across my path and I'm like, "Ooh, we should do something," or like what's I love to see opportunities.
right.
And I know that sometimes we need to be in a season of finishing what we started and making it better, like maximizing on current opportunities and current properties and current relationships and people that we're already working with or programs that we already have. And it's like, how can we instead take those and maximize on it and take them from good to great
Yeah.
instead of feeling like we got to start from scratch and do something new? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it does make sense, and it's very similar to like you just shared to what I'm saying. It's just, and we have our reasons why we do what we do. Of course, that
Yeah.
comes to play and into play here as well. Because as you know, my portfolio and my investment journey is also about community service. And
Right.
it's also about giving back. So,
Right.
then I feel guilty about, not adding value, which then adds value to this underserved community that I'm investing in. But what God has showed me is that, okay, it's okay that you have the ideas. It's okay that, when people bring the deals to you, again, I'm bringing it through you to give to someone else. That's okay. So that's why I'm always inviting other people to join the journey. I'm not walking around with a closed fist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
so,
good.
but then I ask myself, okay, God, I have to, is this for me? Or what would you have me to do? Why is this happening the way that it's happening? I'm always asking that question to God. And then I'm waiting on his answer. At the same time, I am, I'm still able to do the things that I feel that he's assigned for me to do.
Mhm.
But sometimes we do things that's not our assignment, and as soon as you go out the gate that I took this on personally. This was not assigned to me.
Mhm.
Going out the gate that it's not your assignment. You're just
Yeah.
addicted to saying yes, and then you have to
Yes.
double back and say, "Look, I'm sorry, but I said yes, and I have to come back to you and say, can you find somebody else?"
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And that's a growth. I think that's a growth thing too, is growing in your ability to say no. Even and I love for my yes to be yes and my no to be no.
yeah,
And I also
mhm,
recognize that sometimes I say yes when I should have said no.
yeah,
And I think the key to that is as quickly as possible, if you
mhm,
recognize that you are going to have to shift, that you are in high communication and
yeah,
that you are looking for a solution. And I think that that's one of those things too, is like when you start working with someone and you thought they were going to be great and it doesn't work out the way you hoped that it would, or they're not showing up the way that they said that they would, whatever the case may be, is that we also are are quick or have speed of execution in having hard conversations.
mhm,
So
yeah,
when you need to shift, or when hey, I started working with this contractor and they're not doing what they said they would do, and now I have to have a hard conversation and I'm going to have to make a change. Whatever that is that sometimes I think people who struggle with the analysis paralysis thing will also struggle in taking decisive action when something needs to shift that
Yeah.
is going in a different direction than it needs to. And so it's, again, it's that muscle, and it doesn't just happen on big business decisions. It happens in the daily taking action and being willing to lean in when something gets hard, and we don't shrink back and hide or pull the cover over our heads, but we show up and we take responsibility and accountability and ownership where we need to, and say, now what?
Right,
Right.
right, right.
Right.
I totally agree with that, because one of the things that I always tell myself, and I'll tell, like, when I'm coaching, I'll tell my students, a contractor is good until they're not.
Mm.
And then I heard myself say that one day, and I'm like, you know what? That kind of applies across the board. A friend is a friend until they're not. A husband's a husband until he's not. A wife is a wife until they're not. So people, well, in their intentions is to show up a certain way. But then when you recognize that they're not showing up like they had initially planned or what they agreed to or whatever the case may be, you're not being mean by acknowledging that, sharing it with them. If they're unable to pivot, then you have to let them go. But we get to this point where I hired him, so I'm going to, and people are looking at me, so I'm going to keep working with this person who is not showing up on time and not giving me quality work.
Wow.
And I think the reasons why some people who suffer with analysis paralysis stay in there is because they're non-confrontational and they don't want to have the tough conversation, or they don't know how. In some
Right.
cases, and it doesn't have to be, you're fired, get out of here. It could be a matter of, let me share with you my concerns. I'm gonna need you to address them within this time frame. If not, I'm thinking we're gonna have to pivot. I'm thinking we're no longer a good fit. And you can find keywords and key, sentences that you can use and share with people that gets the point across, but it's not a slap in the face.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I think vulnerability is leadership also, and I'm going to borrow that from Brene Brown in her book, Dare to Lead. She talks about vulnerability as leadership, and being willing to say, hey, I know that I am figuring this out as I go, but here's what I know for sure.
Yeah.
This isn't working for me. And I want us to figure out a healthy conclusion, or here's what I need from you. And if this happens, we can move forward. If it doesn't happen, here's what's going to happen on my end. And just being clear. But I think being real with people, so many times we try to sugarcoat, or we try to protect other people's feelings. And as if that is our job, to protect other people's feelings in all situations. And I think it's a habit that we get into, but it is not something that serves us well in business or in our personal lives.
Yeah, because what you end up doing, what some people end up doing, if that's their first thought, is to protect someone else's feelings, they're sacrificing themselves.
Absolutely.
And they're also sending the message that, I'm not that important.
Right.
And you got to be very careful with the message that you send people, because the message they get from you, because you're sending it to them, is how they're going to treat you. So, so you definitely want to be a person, going back to being decisive, you definitely want to be decisive, not only about the projects that you do and what you're putting out, but also what you're doing yourself, what you're projecting, and how you're handling your own life, and how you're making your own decisions, and how you show up. People like somebody who's in a position to at least give them an idea of what they need to do. Even if it's something like, well, today I'm believing we need to do this, but I'm going to do a little bit more research just in case that, there's other options out there. People, you can say that out loud. You can say that this is what I have today, but I am still, I'm still doing my due diligence. That way it prepares that if you find something else out, it kind of prepares you to come back and introduce a different path or a slight pivot. And they're not going to hold you hostage, because a lot of times you feel like you're held hostage to what you said. They're not going to hold you hostage to one particular way or one particular decisions, because you've also expressed that I am still looking for other options while we move forward with this one. So I think that's important, because a lot of times we do it to ourselves. We put these unrealistic expectations on ourselves, and then you inadvertently pass that on to other people. And then next thing you know, you're still sitting there thinking about, well, how am I going? What am I going to do next? and it's 2 months later.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's this idea of taking decisive action, making a decision, and then doing something to move forward with it's something that's been really top of mind for me this year because, I've got, I added another team member at the end of this last year. I changed up a team member and I feel really good about the decisions.
Yeah.
And and so now I've got, some fresh, some new people on my team that we're learning how to work best together. And I am learning that one of the most important things that I can be as a leader is decisive.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not decisive, it holds everybody on my team up. They're
Yeah.
waiting to hear which direction to go. And I need for my people to be super productive. And just imagine, like, and I'm talking about in my coaching business, but if you
Yeah.
imagine, like, if you've got, if you've got 5 team members on a job site waiting for you to make a decision, and what are they doing? What are they, sweeping floors, waiting for you to decide where you want the wall? Like, you've
Yeah.
got to be decisive and
Yeah.
give them direction, or you're wasting their time. And usually you're paying for it. You're paying for
Mhm.
that waste of
That's
time.
right. That's right.
But the other part of it is opportunity cost.
Mm.
And,
Mhm.
and I think back to when I first started both, and I'll give 2 examples. When I first started in real estate, while a lot of people around me were in that mode of analysis paralysis and they were doing the research and they were trying to figure out what they were going to do, I got 10 deals under contract
Yeah.
in 6 months. And and I was like in full on action taking mode,
Yeah.
doing the thing. Like, I decided what to do and I figured out a path that worked for me. I got in my groove and I did
Mhm.
the thing. I learned a lot from that. But when I looked around me, there were a lot of people that were struggling to even make a decision on what kind of thing they wanted to do to get started, and they were
Yeah.
still learning or thinking about it. And, I know that everybody has different styles, but then all of those people started saying, "Hey, how did you do that?"
Yeah.
And one of the most important things was I made a decision and then I started taking action every single day towards that decision.
Yeah.
And instead of just thinking about it or doing more research about it, I picked up the phone and I started making calls and I started talking to people and I said, who else do I need to talk to get this thing done?
Mhm.
Right. And that, and part of that story is I was able to quit my day job just 9 weeks after I started because I had $400,000 in equity and estimated profit from flips that were going to happen. And so what happens when you take decisive action and you do the thing is that you also are able to, as an entrepreneur, you get to be in control of how much money you are going to make. And if you sit around and think about it, that's called opportunity cost.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so if I had waited 6 months to get started and just did one deal at a time, one deal here, one deal there, like I could have done 10 deals over the course of 10 years, or I
Mhm.
could do 10 deals over the course of 6 months.
Yeah.
And the opportunity cost is about, $350,000 a year is what that costs you
Mhm. Mhm.
if you're spreading it out that way. The same thing in my coaching business is, when I decided that I was going to launch Bold Mastermind, my coaching business, in my first 6 months, from the day I decided to launch to 6 months later, I made $300,000. If I
Awesome.
had been thinking about it and planning it and, trying to get everything perfect, in that my natural is perfectionism. If I had stayed in perfectionism or
Right.
procrastination or think about it mode, that would have been a $300,000 6 month period of
Yeah.
time that had cost me that year, right? And so
And you wouldn't have blessed as many people as you've blessed.
yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
what goes along with that goes along with you taking action is that you are changing other people's lives
yeah.
that's going through your coaching program. I went through your coaching program and I have to say you're amazing.
Oh, thank
I
you.
have to say that you are amazing. But if you had not have taken the action at the time that you took the action, then I may not be a coach right now
Right.
as a result of that. So when you start to think about it from that perspective, then it helps to kind of align things, for you. And
Yeah.
even going forward. So it's important that that we take the time and first of all, and then also, I think it also, in us talking about this, I think it also comes back to fear.
Right.
Fear of failure, fear of, of whatever, not doing it right, whatever the case, whatever that fearful thing is that people deal with is, the one thing I think that you and I have in common is that I am willing to take the action and then accept responsibility for whatever happens, the win or the loss. I am willing to own it with pride.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
and figure out the lesson from it. If it doesn't go exactly the way I thought it was going to go, I've given myself room to learn from it, not
Mhm.
call it a failure, but I call it a bump in the road and move on.
Yeah.
So I
And I
think
think,
that's good too. Mhm.
oh yeah. And I think, you and I both, we can look back over, because you've done, what do you say, 32 transactions in the
Transactions.
last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I've done 17 deals. Some of those had transactions on both sides, but the but I think we can both agree, like, they didn't all go well. They did not. Like,
No.
there were things I would look at it and say that was a failure lesson learned, like
Right.
slash, but
Mhm.
like literally, like, if from the time I started that project to the way that it ended, if I had known when I started how that project would end, I would not have done that deal.
Mm.
And I'm still doing deals.
Mm.
And I keep going
Mhm.
because I know that I can trust myself to handle when things don't go as planned.
Right.
And I can trust myself that if it all falls apart, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to rebuild. I'm going to come back even better and stronger because I've learned some lessons from it. And we pivot and we trust ourselves to identify what the next thing is that is going to make up for the things that were failures or break evens or whatever it is along the way, and we don't quit. And
Right. Right.
that's the big thing, is
That's
that
not
we
an
don't
option.
quit. Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
not. And just because you change your exit strategy and you have something that you bought that you're going to hold and you decide to sell it, it's not quitting.
Right.
It's pivoting. It's being able to analyze your exit strategy and give yourself permission to change your mind because the circumstances have changed and you're open to that. I mean, I'm in the middle of one of the largest transactions that I've had, and it was a house hack. And
Yeah.
at the end of the year, things happened. The contractors were terrible. I had issues with inspections. I had a broker that I don't know what he was doing, but by the time I kind of sorted it all out, the broker hadn't did what he was supposed to do, which was get me an extension, and
Mhm.
there my house was going to go to foreclosure. I didn't even know, and
Oh,
I had made all the payments.
yeah.
But I gotten to the end of my loan, and I, was had requested that he would apply for an extension for me, which he had said he was doing. Then we went beyond the maturity date. Unbeknownst to me, as I was still making payments, they were like, "But your loan is expired, so it doesn't matter." So they stopped taking my payments because I no longer had a loan. I had no idea that this was
Ah,
it was the largest project I had. It was the house. This was a house hack, which means I am not living. I'm living in my son's guest room right now.
yeah.
So this happened, and I had to act quick. And I'm thankful to God that I am a person that is able to pivot. I began to, I'm very transparent. I'm not holding anything, to myself at all. I'm very transparent. I went out, I came up, God gave me, some ideas. I refinanced one of the transactions. I jumped into one of the second lien, the first lien, which is the one that was trying to foreclose on the property. I started communicating with them, explained to them what had happened. They gave me, one solution, which we were able to do, which was to pay, whatever this fee was they wanted us to pay. We paid that.
Uh-huh.
And now, but I sat down and I'm looking back at this situation and I'm like, okay, God, what do you want me to get from this? That question, what do you want me to get from
Mhm.
this? I started this house out with contractors that I knew very early on I didn't like the way they were doing things. But
Mm.
I let it ride. Why? Because all of my attention was over here.
Mhm.
Oh, they'll get it right. They'll fix it or whatever. So, and there were just signs everywhere. So I think it took that, and this is how God moves in my life. It took that action and it coming to a head for me to wake up and realize you need to fire all these people.
Wow.
And I need you to focus on this. And I need you to get it done. Now, it was never a thought in my mind that I wasn't going to get it done. There was never a thought in my mind that I wasn't going to get it done. what I had to take my time with is, how am I going to get it done? So I had to take actions. I had to own, where I was. I had to accept where I was, and I had to take action in reference to now being able to pivot. I'm also still reassuring my lenders that, look, I'll take an L before you will. So I got you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's also, like I said, it's so for me, it was like, that was a turning point for me. That's when I realized you have got to slow down. You've got to slow down. And now I'm in a situation where the lenders is working on giving me a 12-month extension, which I probably won't take. But then I also have my other lender in the background that's looking at giving me another loan that's going to be more conducive to us holding the property.
Yeah.
I also stepped away from house hack and decided to consider a pad split, which it would be a moneymaker if I went that route. So I got all these other things that's coming my way. But if I didn't ask that question, if I didn't pause, if I didn't stop and start assessing what was going on, then I would not be open to, I have options.
Right.
I have choices. So you have to pay attention to what you're doing. You have to be open to changing and pivoting. You have to be okay and give yourself permission to change your mind, as well as to rest. All those things. So these are things that, but I'm still, I'm still doing all the other things, but I feel now today like I'm taking better care of myself.
Yeah.
And that is important, that you take better care of yourself, because what people see, and because we have done, and you're in the same boat, because we have done as much as we have done, and we've supported other people and they've supported us along the way, there are a lot of people that they're seeing the shell, they're seeing what you present each time you present yourself, and they're not, if you don't share and be transparent with them about what the journey is really like, they're going to think that what they see today with you, with your beautiful flowing hair and me with my makeup, they're going to think that it's all peaches and cream. Right. But you're just as transparent as I am, and I love that about you. So that, and I think that's probably what has drawn us to each other, is because we see something about ourselves in each other.
Yeah.
So it's important to be, honest, transparent with people. At the same time, let your journey encourage others. So that's my little 2 cents, girl.
I love it. No, I love it. This is such a great conversation today. And I appreciate you being real. I think real knows real. And that's when so many people share with me that's what they appreciate about the podcast is we just real talk and we talk about what's going on, and we don't try to sugarcoat things. But it's also like, I believe in being real and being real encouraging. And so it's like we don't commiserate. We say, that sucked. Now what? What are we going to do about it? And we don't stay stuck or wallowing in the, man, that was hard, and we're just going to be sad about it for a while. Like, it's just, you learn from it and you move forward and you figure out now what, and you do the thing. And
but the now what is an action. And the now what is a call to action.
Right.
Because now you got to think, you got to have an answer to that question. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to ask yourself that. Now what? Even when I went through my divorce some years ago, and and I realized, like, okay, this is, I'm getting a divorce, and I asked myself, well, what do you want? That's my version of now what, and I didn't have an answer to that question, and I told myself I will never be at that place again, where I don't know what I want. And I think a big part of that is coming from a place of always caring for other people. I never even asked myself, well, Brenda, what do you want? So now I ask myself, what do you want, girl? What you want to do? You want to let this thing go, or you want to figure it out? You want to pivot? What do you want to do? Ask other people, get around like-minded people, have that conversation, people who are willing to be open and honest and not make you believe that everything's peaches and cream. Yeah. So it's that call to action. Get yourself around like-minded people who make you feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable, to be open, so that it clears your mind and your space, so you can elevate emotionally and mentally. Get yourself around like-minded people. That will help you to open up, elevate, and make decisions in a comfortable and safe environment where failure is not an option.
Yeah. And I want to encourage our listeners, I feel like that's a take bold action challenge right there. So getting around like-minded people, how do we do that? How do we find our people?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's important that you tap into some groups that have a similar interest. I know for us, you and I are in a mastermind together, which has truly been a blessing and has really contributed to any success that you ladies have witnessed in my life and my journey in real estate investing is as a result of the mastermind group that I was a part of with Andrea, and being around people who encouraged me, who when I was in balling out, it gave me a place to go to cry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, once I cried for a little bit, then it's like, then the conversation went to, these are some options for you, girl, but, you got to tap into, to local groups, even your support system, your friends that might, also share your interest in whatever it is that you're doing. Right now, we're talking about real estate and coaching, but whatever your interest is, get in groups that have women or people in there that's doing the same things that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Connect with other people. You got to have conversations. You got to step outside of that little private space that you have, that little circle, and connect with other people. Have conversations, network, just whatever it takes. Don't be afraid to say something to the person standing next to you. You never know. This person could have the answer to a prayer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you have to be the one who asks, be the one
Yeah.
who invites.
Mhm.
There's so many people around us, and I think we think sometimes that people that are doing things are like, oh, they're too busy
Yeah.
for me. And that is definitely true for some people that, that you reach out to, and don't take it personal if somebody doesn't respond right away or something like that. But be the one who invites, be the one who shows up.
Mhm.
If somebody wants to get close to me, like, one of the things I tell them is like, come to my next workshop and turn on your camera and be encouraging to other people. Because Brenda, that when I see people on camera, like on a Zoom meeting with me, and they're like lighting up and engaging,
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to be friends with her. Like, that's who I want in my circles.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how and that's how other people feel too. It's like when you turn on your camera and you show up and you just do the next thing and you're encouraging to others, that is magnetic magic for
Yes.
other people who are looking for someone to do this
They're
thing with.
drawn to you.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I think the
Yeah.
key word that you just said is show up.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, whatever room you're in, whatever relationship you're in, friendship you're in, it's important that you show up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this is a great conversation, Brenda. As always, I'm so excited to be back in the swing of the podcast with you. We're going to have a great season 2 together, and I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you too. And thank you for, inviting me to be a part of this. Every time, I went back over the weekend and watched all of our past podcasts. And I was having so much fun just watching, watching us laugh and have a good time and just share. I learned so much from you and listening to you and hearing about your journey. And I hope that I can be that for other people, that what you are to me. So it's a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. And likewise. All right, sisters. Well, if you want to gain more clarity in your life and your business, I want to invite you to join me for a free workshop for women entrepreneurs on how to build your personal clarity, confidence, and connections so that you can increase your income, live your best life, and inspire others to do the same. And you can register for that for free at AndreaEngstrom.com. Now, if something on the show with me and Brenda today resonated with you, would you just let us know? Give us a review on the podcast. Share this with others. If you know a sister that needs to hear something we shared today, please share it with her. Yeah. And if you're a woman entrepreneur, you can join my free Facebook group, Bold Women in Business Sisterhood. Now, thank you again, Brenda Stroud. Great conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've loved being here and love sharing with you ladies.
Awesome. Well, till next time, I'm Andrea Engstrom, and we are your sisters in business, encouraging you to take action on your dreams. Show up to your life with power and authenticity. Be bold, be tenacious, and make it happen.
Bye.